Hey guys, my name is Funparo. Two popular items in the game are Trinity Force and Divine Sunderer. Both have similar components and stats, but the passives are different. The question is, how do we know which one to get? In this video, I'll go over the items and help you find out what to build and when. So let's get right into the stats and what it takes to build these items. So Trinity Force gives you 35 AD, 20 ability haste, 30% attack speed, and 200 health, and it's made up of a Sheen, Heartbound Axe, and a Kindle Gem. Its passive threefold strike lets your basic attacks give you 20 bonus movement speed for a certain duration, and if the person that you're targeting with your auto attacks is a champion or some structure, your basic attack damage will be increased by 6%, stacking up to 5 times for a max of 30% increase in your base attack damage. Your other passive on it is Spellblade, which means that after you use an ability, your next basic attack within the span of 10 seconds will deal 200% base AD and bonus physical damage. And then your mythic passive empowers all the legendary items that you purchase with 3 bonus attack damage, 3 ability haste, and 3 bonus movement speed. So now looking at Divine Sunderer, it gives you 40 attack damage, 20 ability haste, and 400 health. Its passive Spellblade is when, after using an ability within the span of 10 seconds, your next basic attack will do 12% of the target's max health if you're melee, and 9% if you're ranged of their maximum health as bonus physical damage on hit. And then its mythic passive empowers all legendary items that you purchase with 5% armor pen and 5% magic pen. And Divine Sunderer is made up of a Phage, a Sheen, and a Kindle Gem. So then for the sake of damage calculations, we'll be also adding Sterak's Gauge to the mix so that we can utilize the mythic passives on these items in our calculations. So in terms of stats, Sterak's Gauge will give you 50 AD and 400 health. So in order to find out what to build when and understand the damage of the items, we first have to understand the math behind them. So I've created 2 equations, one for Divine Sunderer and one for Trinity Force. So for Divine Sunderer, we have 100 over 100 plus 1 minus % armor pen times the initial armor value. And then we'll multiply that by the damage plus 0.2 max HP. And that entire thing in parentheses is going to be multiplied by the whole thing that we had in the beginning. So the 100 over 100 plus all that is supposed to represent the damage reduction due to physical damage due to the armor. And we introduce the armor pen here by having 1 minus % armor pen, and then we can also introduce magic pen if you also have abilities that scale with AP. So now looking at Trinity Force, a very similar equation, except so we didn't introduce the % armor pen because there isn't any on the mythic passive, but if you do buy items like Lord Dominic's or Cyrilla's Grudge or Lethality even, what you can do is introduce those variables into the equation, into the bottom part of the equation. So if it's Lethality, it's flat armor pen. So there is an equation online, and then there's also the % armor pen, which you can do what I did in the first equation and apply that there. So it'll be, instead of here, we're going to assume that there aren't any armor pen or flat armor pen or lethality or anything. So it'll be 100 over 100 plus armor, and multiply that entire thing by base damage times 1.06 to the x power plus damage plus 2 times base damage times 1.06x. And that entire thing is parentheses multiplied by the physical damage reduction due to armor. And what you gotta consider here is that X is the number of auto attacks that you have. So your first auto attack won't apply the threefold strike passive in terms of getting your increased bonus physical damage, but after using an ability, so what you can do is you can auto attack, then use an ability, and then auto attack again to get both passives in one. And then we would have to add 2 times base damage times 1.06x because that's the 200% bonus physical damage. We gotta consider that here the first x value, if you are starting without autoing them in the first place, will be 0, but then your second x value will be like +1 because you're using an ability to introduce both passives. But make sure that damage increase from the passive can't go above 5 auto attacks because it stacks up to a max of 5 or 30%, like a 30% increase. So just make sure you watch that when you're doing the math. And yeah, let's go right into some cases. So our first case is a squishy case, which involves a level 9 Vayne with 45.92 armor and 1114.86 HP. And the person that we're going to be using to damage this Vayne will be a level 9 Jax with 96.65 AD. First, if we combine Trinity Force with Sterak's Gauge, the combined stats will be 85 AD, 600 health, 20 ability haste, and 30% attack speed. So we introduce all these variables that we have, we'll input the armor, we'll input the damage, And then the total damage with Trinity Force and Sterak's gauge after physical damage reduction due to the armor will be 266.96 damage in one rotation of having auto attack, ability, auto attack. So now looking at the same case, but now with Divine Sunderer and Sterak's gauge, we'll have 90 AD combined, 800 health, and 20 ability haste altogether in terms of the stats that you get from both items. So here is where we introduce the armor pen. So your new armor value will be 43.624. So the way I found that out is your armor value is not actually getting reduced. The Vayne will still have 45.92 armor, but for the sake of damage calculations, the new armor value that will be used will be 43.624. So what we'll do now is multiply 0.6963 times damage to get final damage done. 0.6963 was what I got from 100 over 100 plus the armor value, but also introduced the armor pen. So when that fraction turns into this decimal of 0.6963. So then your final damage done will be 223.11. So as you can see, Sterak's and Triforce do more than the Divine Sunderer. One, because the target doesn't have that much armor, and there's also less HP. And Trinity Force does give you more AD, and it's passive if you keep autoing. So now let's look at a bruiser case. So we're still going to have the Jax with 96.65 AD, and this time we'll be versing a level 9 Gwen with Riftmaker and plated steel caps. And we'll also have 5 armor from runes, and altogether you'll have 90.96 armor and 1456.6 HP. So same combination of items, Trinity Force with Sterak's, 85 AD, 600 health, 20 ability haste, 30% attack speed. So your total damage done after you input everything into your equation, you'll have 203.995 damage. So now let's look at Divine Sunderer and Sterak's. You'll get combined total growth of stats of 90 AD, 800 health, 20 ability just from items. So the new armor value we're going to have here will be 86.412 for the sake of damage calculations, as once we put everything in the fraction and we convert that to a decimal, we'll have 0.5364 times damage to get final damage done, and your final damage done will be 193.89 damage. So as you can see, Triforce again does do more damage at this state, but I will show you some trends, and you probably can already see some trends. So what I did was I created an inequality where I took both equations and set Divine Sunderer's side greater than the Trinity Force side, so I could find the max HP threshold needed for Divine Sunderer to do more damage. But obviously there's also many variables here. There's the armor values, damage values, and armor pen values, and so much here. But I usually use those as constants, and the HP is what I use as the variable. So we're going to use the same values as before. This time for armor I use the value of 100, and then I used like the damage values and all that to find the HP thresholds needed for Divine Sunderer to do more damage. So when you input 100 and the Jax damage, you'll get the inequality to be that X must be greater than 1610 AP for a target with 100 armor, and the damage values of Jax at that point for Divine to do more. So obviously that's very low. If we were to look at some trends, if we were to input a lower armor value, the HP threshold required for Divine to do more increases. Also, when armor increases, the HP threshold will decrease. Because armor pen is getting more value at that point. You can also use this equation to look at these trends yourself to help you determine what is the better item at the state of the game that you're in. So some conclusions that we can achieve: in most squishy cases, generally you can build Triforce. You can build Triforce usually against things like marksmen or champions that really don't build HP or don't build a lot of armor. And then usually more tankier champions, generally Divine Sunderer is better, but there obviously are some cases where Trinity Force will do more. But you can use these equations to help you find your own trends. Just make sure that when you're using the Trinity Force equation that you watch how you're applying it, because the 3 full strike is a stacking passive, so when you're using the equations, make sure you implement that. So the X that you first introduce with the base damage in your first auto attack, and then if you apply your Spellblade proc, the second auto attack after your Spellblade should have an increased X value, so you can implement that 6% increase in base attack damage. And then you'll apply that to the Spellblade proc as well. But if you use these equations, you can help yourself find trends. And if you guys enjoyed this video, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Comment down below what you'd like to see next. I'd like to thank you guys for watching, and have a great day.